This is going to work better. I'm sure it is. We've got the microphone up and running. I have volume. There's a little green button twinkling, so I'm pretty sure if folks can jump back in, we will get this done. Yes. This is about fourth time lucky. Let's see. Hopefully when people jump in, we can start this. Do we have sound, folks arriving? You can hear me. Hey! We kind of got there. Horrendous. This is the first time I've done a live Q&A, obviously, and I've tested this so many times, and then obviously nothing worked, does it? Because it absolutely doesn't. But it's so great that so many people are here. I'm going to try looking at the camera, but I'm also keeping an eye on the chat because this is all new fun territory for me. So, thank you very much, Kylie and everyone, for posting the link so people have a sense of where to go. Because obviously, if I sat here and try and redirected everybody, I'm not actually doing anything useful for everyone who is here. It is Technology Indigo. It is. And I'm really not a fan. I know some of you will have come across the band Rage Against the Machine. And for me, in my life, the machine is absolutely a printer. So that tells you where I'm at. Most other things trying to kind of do well. Technology is not my friend. So GL, my health is pretty good, actually. I have a second round of testing for my cancer next week on Tuesday, I believe. So hopefully I'll get some results from that, and then I might do, if I have good news, I'll do a video and let people know I'm doing okay. So thank you very so much. So people in the comments, this is absolutely wonderful. Loads of people. Yeah, Kylie, yes, you can absolutely imagine me taking. We have a massive pond in the grounds of the clinic, and I have thought many times about picking the printer up and just chucking it in and just waving goodbye and watching it sink with glee. So this does actually work. So this is kind of a test, but this is also a real Q&A. I want to engage with you folks and have a bit of a dialogue around the video that was up last week on boundaries within OSDD and DID. But in the comment section, so please pop questions in, please ask anything you want to ask at this stage before we jump into that, and let me know where you're from. So, because I know that there's people from the UK here, I know there's people from Canada and the States. I've no idea whether anyone from Australia or New Zealand is coming in. And so, yeah, put some comments in so I can have a look. Oh, Lady Sherwood, Reverend Mother. Yes, thank you. You've known Andrew. So yeah, it's been a funny thing. MB Bear, the puppy, Bardsey, she is absolutely chaotic. She's quiet at the moment because I've taken her out. It's over 30 degrees C here. So I kind of whizzed her out to go to the loo and brought her back in. We have some Australians. Greece. Amazing. Indiana, Oxfordshire, Michigan, Germany. Goodness. Oh, Bavaria, Germany. Very nice part of the world. Nowhere exotic, just Yorkshire. Well, Yorkshire is supposed to be absolutely the country, isn't it? So Canada, California, Ohio. I am a great fan of Ohio, obviously. And you speak with an Australian accent. That's brilliant. San Diego, I know it well. Oklahoma, I had one of my best friends came from Oklahoma. San Francisco area, Pennsylvania, Florida, Kansas. Obviously, I have to say that's one. Even though I know Kansas City are in Missouri, I do have a very fond spot for Kansas. So brilliant to see you here. Oh, gosh, Iowa, Massachusetts, another Yorkshire person, but you're in Dorset. Are you allowed to go to Dorset? I wonder. And Delaware, fabulous. Delaware is one of those cities that we always hear about over here. We've got absolutely no idea whatsoever what it looks like. And we're in Cheshire. So Cheshire is very sort of like old countryside here in the UK. It's sort of tucked just below Liverpool and squidged next to North Wales. So from where I sit in the clinic here, within 1 mile or about 2 kilometres or so, I can walk into Wales and a different county called Shropshire and back into Cheshire. So it is fantastic. So let's have a look. So I've got some questions. So Benny, question: how is your clinic able to do its survivors online with the client? And so can we provide services in Iowa? We can't at the moment because of licensing, because of Americans have very, very funny licensing laws. So lots and lots of stuff. Wow, there are so many people here. I've got, I think, over 60 people. Well, firstly, everyone, welcome and thank you so much for being so patient with all the mess that we had with the Q&A last Sunday, and for jumping in today and probably finding yourself through 3 other live stream Q&As in order to get to this one. And I'm seeing some really good questions coming up. So Parrot does us blue. If you have any creative exercises you can suggest for people with DID who have parts that can't agree on boundaries, how is it possible to compromise? So let's start with that, because we're going to jump in now to the Q&A. I've got about sort of half an hour, 40 minutes or so. So this is a really brilliant sort of starting point, because boundaries are massive, massive problems, obviously, for many people on the outside world and on the inside world. And the easiest answer I'd have is always try and start working on boundaries with something fairly straightforward that doesn't really have a great emotional connection to it. And I tend to think my starting place is usually socks. So if you can get, let's say, an agreement, some sort of compromise and collaboration on what socks get put on at the start of every day, you start building a little bit of an organization between everybody. And that means that some people don't get to wear the socks that they might want to wear. So what you do is you say, well, we got 7 days in a week. That's 7 different pairs of socks we can start the day in, but we can also change socks midday. So that's what I would start with, is try and think, is there a rule, or say we are going to wear socks, and these are the socks that we're going to wear today, these are socks we're going to wear tomorrow, and everybody has an opportunity of pitching in and having their say. Because I think when we're working with boundaries, if we're able to establish some sort of agreement on something, you know, at least you've got a platform within which to work. So I hope that is a good starting point. Multiplicity and me, Jess is here. Hello, Jess. Really, yes, excited to see you here as well. Fabulous. Jess is one of the people who got me started on the YouTube in the first place. So you can either thank her or blame her, depending on what you want to, how you feel about it. And gosh, so lots and lots of questions coming up. So do you have advice for negotiating internal boundaries with romantic intimacy in a relationship? Again, that's a really, really big question, and one that causes absolute havoc, because if we don't get this right within OSDD and DID, then what can happen is that intimacy gets absolutely wrecked, or just goes in a direction that people might not want it to go in. So I think it's always about doing stuff well in advance. So we have this thing called signposting. So whenever any intimacy is happening, establishing what the boundaries are during the intimacy is not the time to do it. It has to be done well before and with the partner in full agreement. So this is obviously about them knowing about the DID or OSDD, knowing which parts might be affected, and setting some rules for who may be present or not present, or how things might want to go. And then the actual boundaries and rules for what takes place during the intimacy. So that's really where we have to start with. Do things well in advance. Toasted Fallen Star, communication for me is virtually non-existent. Only ever happens on the most basic of levels. But I bet there is loads of communication going on, but it's not good communication. It's probably behavior and emotions and stuff happening behind the scenes. And that can often really, really get in the way massively. So trying to learn how to listen to the language, because it's not going to be completely silent. There will be stuff going on. We tend to think of communication as being, I say, you say, I say, you say. But actually within dissociation, as many of us are aware, the communication is done on many, many different levels. We have to translate exactly what is being done. So, hi, Netherlands. We have some folks here from the flat country. So that's absolutely wonderful. Oh, thank you very much, Jess. That's really good. So some people are saying, yeah, Patricia, you're saying it feels weird talking to my parts. It really can. This doesn't always be a comfortable process. Sometimes it just feels very, very strange. And I hear this a lot from people where they just say that just actually hearing that voice and having that communication is sometimes the strangest thing. But at least there is communication. So being able to talk, even if it's weird or a bit strange, it's happening. And I think that's absolutely fantastic. So let's have a look. Gosh, do you plan on doing more videos specifically on partial DID? Sienna, absolutely, I do. Yeah, really appreciate it. I'm glad you're here. partial DID is a massive thing, and it's really not in many of the books. It's really not documented. It's really not discussed very much. We have a number of patients in the clinic who have partial DID, and I think we work successfully with it. That's our plan. So yes, I am going to be doing some more videos on partial DID. What would be really nice is if outside of this, sort of in the when videos on partial DID, or when I do things like this, is for you to write the kind of, let me know the questions that you'd like answered in the video. What's really fun for me is being able to organize my videos around what people are actually looking for, because I spend half of my time kind of working out what would be a good idea for me to talk about, and half the time going through the comment section, looking to see what's cropping up and gaining some sort of opportunities, really, sort of like looking for the what might be a good video to put out. So if you've got a specific question about partial DID that you'd like me to look at or do my best to answer in the video, put it in comment section of the other videos or on the community posts. That would be the best place for it. So let's have a look. I'm going to have a question. I'd really love to hear about the different presentations of OSDD, especially the ones where the alters are all versions of the same person. I've had a patient who we kind of had as sort of like, I'll use a letter for their name, say T, and then we had like T version 1, T version 2, T version 3. We consider those to be, the apparently normal parts, and they all appeared differently, but they didn't know which one was appearing, and they didn't have the memory of the other ones. And if we're thinking about boundaries between those, is one would say something or behave in a particular way in one session, we'd have another session with T, and they would have absolutely no idea what's gone on. And when I mentioned about some of the things that have happened and been said, there was a lot of shame and humiliation about what was being done. So you can have those versions kind of the same sort of person. It's very difficult for people in the outside world to spot, and it can be very, very difficult when we're thinking about boundaries. That's a really good point. Will you ever interview Richard Schwartz? Well, funnily enough, I put some feelers out into the IFS community to do an interview about IFS, and I didn't get anything back. So I would love to. I've got some people that I'd be interested to talk to in the IFS world, but I've got to get them to say yes in order to do the interview. Haven't approached Richard yet, but I'm sure he's a very, very busy man. So let's have a look. Partial DID is the subject, absolutely. And depersonalization, derealization, misunderstood, and that's absolutely it. So I'll do some other videos on this, because currently we're thinking more about the sort of boundaries and issues of boundary violations. MB Bed, you take referrals from the NHS outside your area? We do, absolutely. We have people from all over Wales, England, Scotland being referred in, and we see as many as we can get. You should do a video on how IFS works for DID, OSDD systems. I'd love to, but I need an IFS practitioner in to look at that. Any strategies? Gosh, I mean, these questions are wonderful. There are so many questions. It's going to be, it is tricky for me to pick these out. So I'm hoping you're being patient with me, doing my best. Let's have a look. How do you build trust between alters? Now, that's a really great question, Theo. Thank you very much. Because it's I suppose in the same way as with respect, building trust between alters is part of those boundaries. If you set a boundary and you have another part, whatever we want to call them, within the system, and they respect that boundary, that really helps us understand the nature of trust. And this is why it's so difficult building trust, because as I said in the video, a lot of systems arrive in the world because of boundary violations in childhood. So what can happen, obviously, is that leads to there's no trust, because adults will be potentially saying to those children, you can trust me, I love you, I care for you, I like you, let me do these various different things. And obviously they're lying. So the development of trust in childhood is very, very scarce, and it's very fragile. So alters often work out that it's better to not trust anybody, to try and be independent and try and stay away and do your own thing, have your own set of rules, and don't really sort of like get involved in anyone else's. And this is where we have these conflicts of boundaries. So establishing trust between parts is both extremely important and extremely difficult. The manner in which we do that is always about being slow and careful. And I always come back to this empathic listening. We've got to be able to develop a boundary that can be followed. So if you agree on a set of behaviors or how you're going to conduct yourself in a setting, and you set all that in motion, and that's exactly what does happen, and it's rewarded, and the consequences of that are really positive, and there's loads of happiness, and there's loads of gratitude and appreciation for the effort in working that boundary properly, that starts building trust. It's very fragile, and it can be easily lost. Right, gosh, we've got over 90 people. That's fantastic. So many questions, and I'm going to be able to keep hold of these questions. So things that I don't get to talk about in this Q&A, I will absolutely try and get back to within some of the videos. Oh my, Luke Duplicate, oh my God, this thing is exactly what my system is largely based on. I think there's a lot of context. There's conversations going on in the chat. I think this is wonderful. So DVDH, so question, I find young parts struggle a lot with boundaries, both mine, ours, and those of others, mostly due to overwhelming emotions. They fall into attachment, cry, survival response. Absolutely, because if our boundaries get violated, it hurts a great deal. And what we need then is a lot of reassurance seeking. The problem that small parts can have is that they don't really set boundaries, because if we think about children aren't the people in the world that are setting boundaries, it's the adults that are setting boundaries for them. So with DID, for example, it's different, because even though they're child parts, they still exist within this adult framework. So there's a lot more opportunity to collaborate and start developing boundaries with them. But it is really about going to those parts and trying to help them understand what are the boundaries that make them feel safe and secure. So they may say things like, that no one shouts at me, that if I've done something wrong, that people tell me I've done something wrong in a really calm and gentle voice, because one of my boundaries, one of my rules is not being shouted at, because that makes me so unsafe and that makes me so upset. They then seek a great deal of reassurance, and that attachment cry, that need for people to come and look after them massively gets triggered. So there are better opportunities sometimes with child parts in DID than there are with children in the outside world. We don't really want children in the outside world setting boundaries. They have to trust that the adults that are looking after them are the ones that are setting boundaries, and that those boundaries are good, i.e., I'll always keep you safe, I'll always look after you, I will listen to you, I will care for you, I will love you, and it's unconditional. And that if someone violates those boundaries and harms you, I will step in and I will protect you from those boundaries. Now, often in DID, what happens is internal parts can violate each other's boundaries, but the others in the system really don't want to know. They just walk away. They go, that's nothing to do with me. That's not my problem. So one of the ways of being able to help with overcoming boundary violations is that other parts in the system, as best as they can do, and when it's available and appropriate to do so, is that they step in and they start helping, and they say, that's not acceptable, or you did great there and well done, and I'll look after you and I'll reassure you. This is very, very complex stuff to be able to achieve. And so, yeah, MB Bear, how can I explain boundaries to very young parts? It's about saying that a boundary is like a rule. It's like an acceptable way of looking after each other. It's an acceptable way of behaving around each other. So boundaries might be no swearing, no stealing, no eating things that shouldn't be eaten, no wearing things that shouldn't be wearing, no going to places that we shouldn't go to. So it's all about, what is it that you need in order to feel safe? What are the rules that we attach to those behaviors? Oh, Dee, this makes me cry. I'm really sorry if things, this is really emotive stuff. I mean, we're not doing a podcast about a TV show or a film or a sporting event. This is obviously, potentially quite painful. And I really hope that everybody here is looking after themselves really, really well. And I'm trying to stay clear of too much depth and too much, because obviously, I don't know how folks are behind the scenes here. So our youngest loves sleep, JD, our youngest loves sleeping in the outside bed. So when sleeping is really hard, that one is allowed out to sleep. That's kind of nice. So there's some really neat little strategies that are coming through. Let's have a look. So DC Cog, advice for not feeling like a burden on the people I love due to my dissociation, making it hard for them to have a consistent and predictable relationship with me. I mean, I think if I suppose the best thing I can say is if you love them and they love you, I think there's an acceptance that we're not going to be perfect and that things are going to go wrong. I think the key with that feeling of being a burden is always to say, do you think that I am? And if they say no, we need to sort of trusting that they're going to say the truth and that we can believe them with that. And yeah, Dee, I don't know how to feel safe. I mean, this is exactly the difficulty that many people have when we talk about safety clinically. It's a concept that I understand extremely well. Like, I'm sitting in this room and I'm talking to you folks through this camera. I feel entirely safe. I know my front door is open, my back door is open, not open, but unlocked. I feel really safe because safety is something that is a present day, is a momentary thing. And a lot of people with complex trauma, a lot of people with dissociation, they don't feel safe from the outside world, but also they don't necessarily trust that the boundaries and the rules by which they live by are going to be held internally. Now, I'm absolutely 100% certain that I can maintain my own boundaries when I want to. If I want to break them, I can do, but I often realize that the consequences of that would be absolutely ridiculous. So I have control over that, but people with dissociation like OSDD and DID, they really don't have that luxury of the control in the way that, say, a non-dissociative person like me does. So, someone's saying, great question, Tiffany. So how does ADHD interact with DID? I mean, wow, that is a very good question. We can get into that in a different time or place, because it does have a massive interact, and there are great overlaps, or really sort of important and sometimes positive, sometimes negative overlaps between ADHD, autism, and DID. So, question: can individual alters engage in therapy without the involvement of other alters? Okay, that's not to do with boundaries, so let's jump in. So it's a really good question. Again, that's a very good question for another topic. So just having a look through, I mean, gosh, you guys are writing so much stuff. I hope you're enjoying the comments. I'm not able to read all of them because I'm trying to look at the camera and talk, but there are some fantastic questions and comments in here. Thank you so much. It's really great seeing all of this involvement. So some people are starting in therapy and some people are not, and some people have already been in therapy for quite a long time. So we have many different folks sitting in here, and lots of people are asking lots and lots of wonderful questions. How can DID be best explained to teenagers, especially as part of the process of setting boundaries that may at times leave them feeling not okay? So do you mean, like, I'm hoping you mean like teenagers in the outside world, as in like family, teenage, and things like that? And I think it comes back to that respect thing, and we have to be very patient with teenagers in the outside world because they tend not to be all that respectful. I don't think I was as a teenager. So if we ask them to really establish and respect the boundaries of adulthood and of adults in their world and in their families, for example, often they find really difficulty with that, because part of the issue of being a teenager is to try and test the boundaries of the adults that we're with as part of understanding how we are and how we feel as individuals in the world. And testing boundaries is different to boundary violations. So testing boundaries is what teenagers are obviously supposed to do in order to work out how to become adults and then adopt and build their own boundaries with other adults in the world. So just being really honest with them, but accepting that they're going to really struggle with some of this kind of thing. And this also applies to teenage boundaries within DID and OSDD systems, is that inherently they're going to be more likely to be the rebellious ones, and they're going to be the ones that are more likely to want to push and test and not really respect a lot of those boundaries. It's easy to get angry with them, but that really doesn't help. Georgia, we have Anna Marie. So Georgia, USA, fabulous part. So we've got questions about psychosis and voices. Again, these are really good, fantastic questions, but all topics for other videos and things. And is it okay for different parts to have different boundaries? Of course it is, but it's all about being agreed. Now, it's how you do that. So let's say some of those boundaries might be about what's eaten or what's spent. So what you can do is you can sort of set certain rules and conducts and times for those persons to have sort of free space with their boundaries. So in a way, it's kind of like, let's say with Bardsey, my puppy, I'm going to use this dog analogy again, like I did in the video. I'm not being disrespectful in any way by likening parts to dogs, obviously. So we have sort of boundaries around we have physical boundaries, and we have boundaries of conduct about chasing, biting, barking, yapping, and things like that. Now, there may be times when we want her to be a puppy and we want her to have free rein to do some of those things, to jump around, to sprint about the place. In the house, we do not want that being the case, because she might chase the cats, she might knock furniture around, she might break things, she might hurt herself. So outside, we have a different set of boundaries. So inside the house, there's a certain set of conduct for what she can do. Outside the house in the garden, where we've got a safer, wider boundary around her, where she's less likely to come to harm and there's very little she can break, we allow her to do different things and behave in different ways. But then when she comes back into the house, we pull those boundaries back down. So we don't allow the boundaries from the outside to move on the inside. So we can see working with different alters in exactly the same way, that each may have their own way of doing things, or their own needs, or the things that they require in order to feel safe. And we, as best as we can do, we limit that within the world that we live in to make it functional, but we also give them like a free zone, a zone that they can inhabit, that allows them to sort of work to maybe a different boundary. It's very complex stuff, but it is really useful. And Kylie, I may be asking about external boundaries more than internal boundaries. That's fine. It's okay, because we've got to practice somewhere, and the external boundaries are often what caused the problem in the first place. The internal boundaries are almost like a mapping construct onto what we've learned about the external ones. We do need good external boundaries in place. It's equally as important. And a lot of non-dissociative people and non-traumatized people have terrible issues with boundaries. They just go and behave and do whatever they want, and they sort of walk all over people, and they walk all over social norms and conducts. So not being good at boundaries is not just something that is held within dissociation. I know you guys are talking to each other within the chat. This is absolutely wonderful to see. So Stephanie, how do you work out boundaries if, let's go back to that. If the system wants functional multiplicity, but only one wants to force fusion out of fear of being not normal? I mean, you know, there has to be an agreement, absolutely, with this. It's not going to work unless everybody is involved and everybody is sharing and on the same page. So where you've got that, you're often going to get a lot of anger, and you're going to get a lot of resentment potentially coming through, and that's going to push at the boundaries. So if a person is sort of behaving and doing the things that are within their sort of like standard norms of conduct, and you've got a part out there that feels that they're not being listened or not being heard, they're likely to start breaking or violating boundaries. Not because they want to be cruel or malicious, it's because they're trying to get what they want, and they're trying to make people pay attention and try and make people see. So I think, you know, we have to accept that where you've got a massive disagreement, Stephanie, within a system on something quite as important as functional multiplicity versus fusion, that there are going to be some fences that are going to get stomped down all over the place. It's trying to get it all back and trying to have that roundtable discussion to at least start by listening to the wants and needs of the others. We can't always get collaboration, and we can't always get agreement straight away, but we have to sit and start by listening first and foremost. And that's often very difficult, because some of those parts, they're like, if you haven't listened to me, I'm not going to talk. And they move away, and they kind of hide out in the countryside somewhere. It's very difficult to get them into communication well. Cass, I think boundaries are hardest with the littles that want to attach those they see as parent figures. As an adult, it can make having a normal adult relationship hard when the littles intrude. That's a very, very good point, Cass. Thank you for raising that, because that's something that is often seen within therapy, that the attachment from the little parts to the therapist is quite overwhelming. It can overwhelm the therapist a little bit, and the therapist is the one then that has to start setting those boundaries. Like, if we as therapists can understand the absolute size of that need, that desperate need to attach and connect, then we're able to hold it. We're able to say, I can see what's going on and I can make sense of this. But outside in the world, it's a lot harder. And this is where we see a lot of the boundary violations of relationships and of safe practice in terms of intimacy and sexual relationships and things like that, where some parts are going out and they're seeking that intimacy with the wrong people in the wrong places at the wrong time, and they're breaking what would be considered to be an absolute sacred boundary about being in a single relationship, or not just going off and meeting other people. So it's an incredibly difficult thing for people to achieve. This is why therapy is so important, because in a way we want the littles to practice that need for attachment with a therapist who's able to hold a very safe and secure and consistent boundary that models what an effective boundary should be able to do, i.e. by saying no. So the littles might crawl towards the therapist with that attachment need. The therapist is able to say, I can see what's happening. This is not going to be reflected back in the way that you want, but let's develop a way of it being achieved within a safe and secure way back out in your world. So it relies on therapists being absolutely in charge and in control of their own boundaries, which we should be. Sienna, I'm trying to think of some boundary questions, but I've been locked out of my system. Don't worry about it. Sometimes people jump into these kind of things with loads of ideas in their head, and then when they get there, it kind of gets sort of shut down and closed out, and that's okay. It's all right. Really glad that you're here. It's wonderful. That's fantastic. So Claudia, how do you set boundaries to a part that as a safeguard says you're making up the entire OSDD? It's so frustrating. I mean, I think the answer is there, isn't it? It's how do you get them to accept the premise of OSDD in the first place? And that protective system might be saying, this isn't a thing, this isn't going on. You're making it all up because that's part of the denial. It's part of rejecting the nature of the system, the nature of the dissociation, and therefore the nature of the trauma. I'm just going to grab a quick drink. Patricia, can you be in a part and cheat on your husband? Sadly, that can happen, and it does happen. And this is one of those massive boundary violation type things that you're obviously potentially in a loving relationship with one person, and a part has left that, gone outside, found someone else in the world, and potentially cheated with them in an intimate way. It's really hoping that if that gets uncovered and that gets known about, is that it's not done as a desire to cheat. It's part of that absolute care seeking, nurturing seeking, attachment seeking. It's incredibly painful and potentially massively destructive thing. All about being really honest. And again, if there is a strong relationship taking place, that the person with whom you're in that relationship with absolutely understands and is sort of buying into the OSDD or the DID in a respectful and patient and understanding way, and knowing that things are going to go terribly wrong, but it's the intent of those things is the key construct. So gosh, loads and loads of questions, lots of follow-up questions and things. I was having a conversation with someone who was triggered. I was still present, but couldn't hear what I was saying after that. Another co-conscious takeover. Absolutely. I mean, that might exactly be what's happened there. Carry that. Diana, the younger parts have put us at risk. The older ones are worried and want to be safe, but it's too late. And I think it's a very good question, Diana. And we have to have this kind of conversation between the older parts and the younger parts about safety and risk. I don't think it's ever too late to establish safety. And I think risk absolutely can be understood, and it can be held and can be looked after really, really well. But often the younger parts do put the entire system or the body at risk because they are looking for things, or they're seeking things in the world without really having that deeper understanding of how the consequences might play out and how problematic it could be if they're allowed to do whatever they want to do. And if the system isn't able to sort of manage that, not control it as such, but manage it, then you've got child parts kind of running amok out there in the world. And they can say things and they can do things without fear of consequence, because kids, let's face it, don't really understand these long-term consequences. And kids that have been raised or grown in an environment, I mean, say little parts as kids that have been raised in a traumatic risk environment where there's been safety has not been part of it. They simply don't understand how to organize and how to manage that behavior because they've never been shown it. And this is the essence. This is what I was saying in the video on boundaries, is that we've always got to come back to that construct of where this has all come from in the first place. That we're talking about boundaries because there haven't been good boundaries. I have really no conversations about boundaries with my wife and my friends because we've all been raised in an environment where our boundaries were looked after, managed, and well organized by decent parents. They may have had problems and there have been issues and all sorts of stuff went wrong. That's fine. But the essence of boundaries was around respect and tolerance and love, appreciation for each other, gratitude for each other, all of those things. So I've been raised in that soil, and my tree of me has been grown in that soil of sort of mutual respect, tolerance, understanding, and respect for each other. And we have rebelled and we have pushed against that, but it's always been managed, looked after by parents who go, yep, you're just being a teenager, Mike. You're being a bit of a prat, but we understand that because you're 15. And so all of that stuff was well organized. And I think to answer your question, Diana, is that the little parts that are putting the behavior at risk probably have not had that environment at all. And it's up to the outside adults around you now as an adult and the therapists and the internal system to start making this boundary organized system of respect from scratch. And that's often why it's so hard, but it is not impossible. Gosh, yes. So people are having conversations. I'm trying to have a look in here. This is so many. Okay, yeah. So Stephanie, you've got that is a massive difficult. How can one begin to respect the alter's boundaries and stop hiding them in safe environments and let them be themselves, do what they want, and find some comfort? And I think we can't just let them do what they want in an open environment unless you truly understand what it is that they want. I think it's important to give enough space and freedom to do elements of what they want, but it's up to you, or it's up to the wider system to determine what is an acceptable thing. So you can put a boundary around, these are the behaviors that we consider to be safe enough and acceptable. Within that, go for broke, right? Do what you want in that sense, because it's a protected environment. I think there always has to be this wider boundary around the behaviors. And then within that, we can really allow the smaller, younger parts to play and to be free to test things and to push. Now, if every time they pushed a boundary and we slapped them down and we said, you can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it, they're going to push harder the next time. So we have to sort of bend a little bit. So when our boundaries are being pushed by the internal parts, we kind of bend a little bit and go, I see what you're doing there. I'm just going to hold it back, but I understand where you're going. I'm not angry with you. I'm cross with you. I kind of like the fact that you're pushing a little bit because that's normal, good developmental stuff. So push, but we still hold to our boundary of what is acceptable. So there's a difference between pushing and punching, for example. We don't want an internal part punching our boundaries, but it's fine for them to push, to test. And we have to have limits on that. Came to question, how do you negotiate polygamy with a monogamous partner as a system yourself without overstepping either party's boundaries? And that's massively problematic, because if your partner absolutely needs that monogamous relationship, which most monogamous partners really do, they're going to really frown and not be happy with anything that is considered to be a love for somebody else out there in the world. But if they understand exactly what the polygamous relationship, the polyamorous relationship is that potentially might be there, they've got to really be able to sort of buy into that. And it's about having a partner who respects and understands the depth of what the person that they're with is absolutely carrying. And, you know, there's got to be some rules and there's got to be some conduct that has to be agreed with that. It's all about talking. I mean, so much of this is about that communication and about really building in exactly what is needed between two people in order for them both to feel safe. If you have a partner that doesn't feel safe with the behavior that those partners are manifesting and their boundaries are being broken or violated, their safety is compromised, that relationship is going to really struggle. But if the relationship is safe with all of those things happening, it can work. I'm so honestly, I just want to sort of stop and reflect on this. I'm a little bit overwhelmed with just how fast this chat is moving and about how many people are in here. And I'm so grateful for all of you to sort of like jump in here and be part of this Q&A. I'd also really be interested in whether this is something that people would like to see more of. We're going to be putting I'm doing a free webinar on Monday. If you haven't already had a look at that, you can go through the website, sign up to that. So it's a webinar reflecting on my experiences of starting work with DID. So that might be of interest to some of you. So it's going to have, again, it's going to be lots of questions and answers built into that. So if people want to do that, there is still time to contact Sam on the inquiries desk for the clinic through the website. All of the links to our website are in the descriptions in our video and on our YouTube channel. And we're going to be talking about those reflections. So that's going to be one thing we're doing. There is going to be some more webinars in the autumn. And if this feels like this has been a good thing, we're going to start winding down a little bit now. But do people think that this has been helpful? I suppose live can be very helpful. Toast to Fallen Star, thank you. I love live Q&A. Please keep doing it. So people that weren't here right at the start, I haven't done this before. I've been part of it, but mostly through the NFL. I follow a couple of folks who live stream NFL games, and that's quite entertaining. Chase, it's getting close to 4 a.m. in Australia, so I've got to go, but thank you so much for live. Honestly, Chase, thank you very much. The fact that you dialed in here at like between 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning to listen to me chatting about things is so impressive. So thank you ever so much for that. Yeah, I mean, it has been. Thank you, Indigo. That's really good. And Cass, really well. Rajesh, Ali, thank you. You've done really well. Have I? I mean, gosh, I have absolutely no idea. I mean, I'm just talking. IT Viking, oh cool, just tuned in. That's brilliant. The live stream is going to be up on the website. So we've been speaking now for well over half an hour. Well, I've been speaking for over half an hour. The content is all going to be saved onto the website, not the website, the YouTube channel under the live section. So you can go back, and if you want to sort of go through the start of this with all our technical issues, you're more than welcome to. And Decog, yes, the video is going to be up for people to return to. I'll delete the ones that shouldn't have, the original one that should have been there that for some reason didn't. And I'm going to keep doing this. And Zam and others, I think it's a great idea. Mamalina, oh, I'm late. It's almost over. Greetings from Germany. V Gates. So I hope you're okay. Don't worry about it. It's going to be posted on the YouTube channel. You'll be able to see the things. Poppy, please do more Q&As. I absolutely will. What's been difficult is there's been so many different questions, and in a way, you know, I've sort of said, here's the video and let's do a Q&A on it. And I think there was such a gap between doing the video on Sunday and the Q&A today that it's gone a bit all over the place. But I've loved it. I've thoroughly enjoyed doing this kind of stuff, and just sort of like looking at all the questions, looking at all the thoughts and all the comments. Poppy, hello from Atlanta, Canada. Hello to you. Canada is a wonder. I've been there a couple of times. I've always I love to go back to Canada. It's wonderful. Sienna, thank you so much for this. God bless you. Thank you so much, Sienna. I truly hope that this has been helpful. Switzerland. Mamalina, good. Excellent. Danke schön. Your German is quite cute. Thank you for that. It's a bit all over the place at times. Dorte, this runs too fast. Yes. Please read the full content of the question. I completely get it. It is very quick. There's an awful lot of stuff. And I think when I've tried to read out the questions as best as possible, and I'll get better at it. There's so much text, it's just whizzing down. Stefan Wolfine, hello from Germany. Hello. It's been wonderful to have you here. Decarc, appreciate all you do. Thank you ever so much. And a live premiere of your video and do a Q&A right after. Maybe you get more questions. That's exactly what I tried to do on Sunday. The boundary video was set up. The Q&A was scheduled to come in about 10 minutes afterwards, and we couldn't get the tech organized. The camera wasn't working, the mic wasn't working. and I just couldn't do it. So I put it in. But that is what I would be planning to do. Have the video, have the Q&A afterwards, so it's fresh in everyone's minds. You can hear Bardsey, Debbie, can you? So you can hear Bardsey barking in the background. That is her. So yes, she is barking. And yeah, I'm going to have to go and look after her. She probably needs to go out and have a toilet break of some form or another. Or she might just be having a bit of separation anxiety because she's been hearing me talking, because she's in her den, which is behind this on the other side of that wall. So inconceivable, go rest your throat. Yes, that's a good reminder to have a drink. I will. And I know DVDH, so you've followed up this attachment cry question. I think the reassurance and the love and the validation to answer that question is absolutely what you need to do. And sometimes it will not feel like it's enough, but it is a long game. It's a long game. So hi from Australia. Hi, Jess from Australia. I'll watch this on playback. Yeah, I mean, you're on about 4 o'clock in the morning in Australia. So impressive. While you're up, go back to sleep. Go back to sleep, and you'll be tired tomorrow. Lisa, and maybe for next time, what if we sent questions in advance after you give a preview, just as a thought, as it is fast? I kind of think that would be a good idea in some respects, but also it could be a bit static. And I like the fact that it's a little bit chaotic. Hydrate everyone, Trash Carrot. Yes, get your drink in it. I like the fact that it's a bit chaotic. It's been really fun just not preparing anything and just sort of jumping in and answer it as best as we can do. So I'm hoping, Patricia, I'm hoping I've answered the question, because I know that question has been asked a lot. The empathy is the thing. So the love and the validation it's about really tuning into it and bringing them in and asking what they need. And you know, that attachment cry is a massive therapeutic issue. It's being able to really sort of like sink into that and know where it's come from. And that attachment cry doesn't really get solved in the stabilization phase. That gets solved in the trauma exploration phase. So really being able to develop that deeper understanding is what's needed. And that can be extremely painful. So I just hope that you have a therapeutic resource and support within which to rely on and start to work through some of those issues. I've got this dog barking in the background. I'm getting a little bit distracted by her. But thank you very much. Thank you for, yes, he's answered. I've done my best. And ask people to start their note with questions. I mean, that's not a bad idea. I'm still kind of caught between watching and reading and things. So, but yeah, hey, it sounds like this has gone pretty well. There's loads more questions. Thanks for this fast-paced, punchy session. It has felt like that. So it's really good. We are going to call time on this. So the video will remain up on the YouTube channel, so everyone can watch that. I am going to be doing this. I feel like as a test, this has been successful. Even with some of the technical things, you guys have been absolutely fantastic. This is great. I've just loved this. I love this connection. I love being able to sort of like work in this way. And it's felt like we've all been in the same place at the same time, which is different from how I normally do the videos. So I'm going to continue putting opportunities out for these Q&As. Please join in. And thank you very much, Trash Carrot. Oh, that's so kind. Honestly, that really that touches me a lot. So I'm so grateful for that. Take care of yourselves, everyone. As always, go out, have a good Friday morning, Friday evening, or potentially going into Saturday, depending on where you are in the world. And I will put more content up. There'll be another video coming up on Sunday, and we're going to have some more interviews. I've got some really good people that I'm speaking to do some interviews. So many hearts. Thank you for this. I would be doing the same. I'm sort of putting more my heart emojis out there, but I know if I start trying to find out how to do that, I'll start pressing the off button before I'm ready to, because I'm a bit rubbish at this technology. So have a great time out there. Thank you so much. Enjoy yourselves, and we will see each other again very soon. Take care, everyone. Bye now.